Imagine a world where um, profound spiritual aims crash right into really practical, everyday challenges.
Challenges like, well, bleeding feet from too much walking, or even debates about fancy furniture.
Exactly. Welcome to the deep dive. We're going to be immersing ourselves in a fascinating ancient text today, the Cammakkhandhaka.
And what we really want to do in this deep dive is pull out the key insights, see how spiritual principles got applied, how they were adapted in the real world.
Yeah, uncover some surprising details and really see the human story behind this, well, profound spiritual journey.
That's right. We'll follow this extraordinary young man, Soṇa Koļivisa, and see the Buddha's wisdom in action, navigating some really complex stuff.
And the guidance, it still feels relevant, which is amazing.
It really does.
Uh,
So you're going to discover this intersection of personal struggle, community rules, some surprisingly detailed regulations.
and all this happening alongside, like, miracles and deep philosophy.
Precisely. It's quite a mix.
Okay, let's dive in then. Part one, where does it kick off?
We start in Rajagaha. The Buddha's there. And we meet Soṇa Koļivisa. He's from Kampa, a merchant's son, wealthy and described as quite delicate.
Right, and the text gives this intriguing detail about his feet.
Yeah, that he has hair on the soles of his feet. It sounds strange, but it probably emphasizes his sheltered, delicate nature, which, becomes important later.
Okay, and then King Bimbisāra enters the picture. Big ruler.
Huge. Rules over 80,000 villages in Magadha. And he summons Sāna.
And there's that little detail about etiquette.
Oh, yeah, it's fascinating. Soņa's parents actually brief him on how to show his feet respectfully to the king. Sit cross-legged, don't stretch them out. It just shows you the level of detail in courtly manners.
Tells you something about the society. So Bimbisāra talks to these 80,000 village headmen first about worldly things.
Right, practical matters. But then he points them towards the Buddha for the bigger picture, for their spiritual future.
So these 80,000 headmen, they head off to find the Buddha.
Yep, they go up Gijiko Mountain. They need to get an audience. So they approach the Buddha's attendant, Ayasma Sāgata.
And this is where it gets unusual.
Yeah, you could say that. This is where it gets really interesting. Sāgata needs to clear a path for them, so he just dives into the ground
Dives into the...
and pops up right in front of the Buddha. Just like that. A pretty dramatic entrance.
Wow. Okay, so the headmen must have been stunned.
They were. But initially the text says they're actually more impressed by Sāgata than by the Buddha himself.
Ah, okay, so that's a potentially awkward moment, isn't it? How does the Buddha handle that?
Brilliantly, actually. He knows exactly what they're thinking. He doesn't compete, but instead prompts Sāgata to show even more advanced psychic powers.
More. Like what?
Walking in the air, standing, sitting, lying down up there, making smoke and fire appear, even disappearing. Really showing off the abilities one can develop.
Okay, so a full-on display. But how does that bring the focus back to the Buddha?
Because then Sāgata, understanding the point, bows down humbly before the Buddha, declaring himself a disciple. It instantly shifts the awe from the student's power to the master who inspired it. It's really quite strategic.
Very clever. So, with everyone's attention now firmly on him, what does the Buddha teach them?
He gives them what's called a gradual discourse. Starts foundational generosity, morality, the path to heaven. Then he talks about the downsides of sensual desires, the benefits of letting go, of renunciation.
Building up layer by layer.
Exactly. And he finishes with the core teaching, the supreme teaching of the Buddhas, the Four Noble Truths. Suffering, its cause, its end, and the path to end it.
And what's the impact on these 80,000 headmen?
It's immediate and profound. The text says the Dhammakaku, the eye of Dhamma, arises in all of them.
The eye of Dhamma. What does that mean practically?
It's described like a perfectly clean white cloth taking dye instantly. No resistance, no black spots. Their minds are purified and they just get it. They understand the teaching, their doubts vanish.
Wow, all 80,000.
All 80,000. They take refuge right then and there in the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. They become lay followers on the spot.
That's an incredible conversion story, and Soṇa witnesses all this.
Yes, and he's deeply inspired. He sees this teaching and thinks, wow, living this perfectly pure life as a householder, that's really hard.
So he decides to go further.
He does. He expresses his wish to ordain, to become a monk, and he does, receiving both the initial ordination, pabhaja, and the full ordination, upasampada.
Okay, so now he's fully committed. Part 2, Soṇa's path. Does it go smoothly?
Not exactly smoothly, no. He starts practicing with incredible intensity. The text uses the term virya, extreme, maybe even excessive effort.
And this is where the bleeding feet come in.
This is it. He practices walking meditation so intensely for so long that his feet get terribly wounded and bleed all over his walking path.
The text description is quite graphic, isn't it?
It is. It says the path looked like a slaughterhouse. It's meant to convey the sheer, maybe misguided intensity of his effort.
So it's not just physical pain. This must affect him mentally, too.
Absolutely. He's alone, meditating, and starts having serious doubts. He thinks, look, other monks are getting liberated, but I'm trying so hard, and my mind still isn't free from defilements.
That sounds like a really tough place to be, questioning everything.
Definitely. He actually considers giving up, going back to lay life. He thinks, I'm rich, I could do good deeds and enjoy my wealth.
Yeah.
He's really struggling.
He's at a crossroads. What happens next?
Well, what's fascinating here is the Buddha's response. The text says the Buddha, knowing Sona's thoughts from afar,
Know his thoughts.
yes, discerns his mental state,
Right.
and he instantaneously vanishes from Gishaku mountain where he was.
That vanishes, like teleportation.
Pretty much. And reappears right in front of Sayana in the Siddhavana Grove. It's another miracle, but the key thing is the timing and the personal attention.
Wow. So the Buddha shows up just when Soṇa is having this crisis.
Exactly. He sees the bleeding feet, understands the whole situation, and then he asks Soṇa about something seemingly unrelated, his lute playing. Turns out, Soṇa used to be a skilled lute player before he ordained.
Okay, where's this going?
The Buddha asks him, Soṇa, when you played the lute, if the strings were too tight, could you play well? Was it harmonious?
And Soṇa says,
No, of course not. Too tight, they snap or sound harsh.
makes sense.
Then the Buddha asks, what if they were too loose?
Also no good, right? Won't make a proper sound.
Exactly. Sonya confirms, too loose, it's unplayable.
Yeah.
But, the Buddha asks, what if the strings were evenly set, not too tight, not too loose?
Then it would be perfect, harmonious, playable.
Precisely. Songda agrees.
Yeah.
And then the Buddha makes the connection.
Ah, the analogy clicks into place.
Right. He says, just like that, Sona, excessive effort, akara the virya, leads to agitation, no takaraya. Like strings too tight.
Makes your mind restless.
Yes. And too little effort, atilana virya, leads to idleness. Kozajai, like strings too loose, your mind gets slack.
So find the middle way, the balance.
Exactly. The Buddha tells him to establish equality of energy, virya samatha, and equality of faculties, virya samatha. Balance the effort. Harmonize your mental abilities.
And grasp the sign. What's that mean?
Nimitte. Grasp the mental sign or image of that balanced state. Focus on maintaining that equilibrium, that sweet spot.
So does Soṇa take this advice?
He does. He adjusts his practice, finds that balance, and the text says not long after, he attains arahantship, full liberation.
Just like that. Well, not just like that, but by following that specific advice.
Yes. He makes the declaration, birth destroyed, holy life lived, task done, no more returning to this state of being. It's a complete transformation directly linked to that lute analogy.
Incredible. So he finds the balance and achieves the ultimate goal. Now, part 3, he goes back to the Buddha.
He does. He wants to declare his attainment, his insight, and his description of an arahant is really powerful.
What does he say? How does he describe this state?
He talks about destroying defilements, completing the path, laying down the burden, achieving the true aim, breaking all the fetters binding one to existence. Basically, being perfectly freed through knowledge.
It sounds very final, very complete.
It is. And he adds something really interesting about the liberated mind's inclinations.
Inclinations? What kind?
He says an arahant's mind is naturally inclined towards, adamudo, 6 things. Not because they try to be, but because greed, hatred, and delusion are just gone.
So it's the natural state of a purified mind. What are the 6?
Renunciation, seclusion, non-affliction or harmlessness, the cessation of clinging, the cessation of craving and non-confusion or clarity. The mind just gravitates towards these.
That's a profound description. Not forcing it, being naturally drawn to peace.
Exactly. And he goes on to explain how this mind interacts with the world. Even when really strong sense experiences hit, powerful sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, or strong mental events arise.
Yeah. What happens?
It does not overpower their mind. The mind stays unmixed, steady, unshakable. It just observes the changing nature of the experience without getting caught up.
That sounds like incredible stability.
It is. He uses this amazing analogy. The mind is like a solid mountain rock. No cracks, no holes. Strong winds can blow from any direction.
But the rock doesn't shake.
Exactly. Unshaken, unperturbed, unmoved. That's the quality of the liberated mind he's describing.
Wow. And how does the Buddha react to this declaration?
He praises Soṇa warmly. He says, this is how noble ones declare enlightenment, explaining the benefit without any self-praise or boasting.
Ah, contrasting it with others.
Yes. He says foolish persons might boast about attainments and then later regret it, maybe realizing they were mistaken or just showing off. Sona's declaration is genuine and humble.
It validates Sona's attainment completely. Okay, so that marks a high point in Sun's personal journey. But then the text shifts gears quite dramatically, doesn't it?
It really does. We move from this very personal story of liberation into the realm of Vinaya, the monastic rules and discipline. Part 4, the evolution of rules.
And a lot of these rules seem to come about because of, well, less than ideal behavior from some monks.
That's often the catalyst, yes. Particularly a group known as the Cammakkhandhaka bhikkhu, the group of 6 monks. They seem to frequently test the boundaries, engaging in stuff considered inappropriate for monks.
They sound like troublemakers.
They certainly cause the need for many rules to be laid down. Their actions highlight the practical challenges of managing a growing community with diverse individuals. The rules aren't just abstract ideals, they're responses to real situations.
Okay, let's get into the specifics. The sandal saga, you called it. How does that start?
It actually starts with Soṇa again. Remember his delicate feet. Because of that, the Buddha initially makes an exception just for him, allowing a single-layered sandal.
Okay, a personal allowance.
But Soṇa, maybe feeling awkward or concerned about fairness, asks the Buddha to allow it for all monks. He doesn't want special treatment that might cause issues.
That's thoughtful of him. So the Buddha agrees.
Yes, he permits single-layered sandals for everyone, but explicitly prohibits multi-layered or fancy complex sandals, trying to keep it simple, functional.
But the Shabagi monks, they don't quite stick to the spirit of the rule.
Not at all. They immediately start wearing all sorts of elaborate sandals. Brightly colored ones, blue, yellow, red, black, fancy reds. Sandals with goatskin trim, padding shaped like parrot wings, made with horn.
Wow, really pushing it. Peacock feathers even.
Peacock feather embroidered, yes. Basically anything flashy and luxurious. And the lay people noticed.
What did they say?
They criticized the monks, saying they looked just like householders enjoying worldly pleasures. This wasn't just about aesthetics, it damaged the Sangha's reputation. People support monks because they represent renunciation, simplicity.
So the image, the perception is crucial.
Absolutely. So the Buddha has to step in again and prohibit all these fancy, colored, embellished sandals.
Back to basics. But are there exceptions for practical reasons?
Yes, the Buddha shows flexibility. If a monk has a foot ailment, like cracked feet, they can use worn-out, complex sandals, but not new ones, importantly.
Okay, compassion meets practicality. Any other exceptions?
Sandals are allowed when climbing onto a bed or chair, probably to keep robes or the furniture clean, and also allowed when walking in the dark at night to avoid injury from thorns or stumps. Purely practical safety measures.
Makes sense. And rules about respect, too.
Definitely. Monks shouldn't wear sandals if the Buddha or senior monks are walking barefoot nearby, a sign of deference. And generally, no sandals inside the main monastery area, the ashrama, unless you have a foot problem.
Very specific. It paints a picture of daily life.
It does. And even more specific, only 3 types of fixed sandals, ones you don't carry around, are allowed for specific places. The toilet area, the urination area, and the washing area. Utilitarian.
And certain types of footwear are banned entirely?
Yes. No wooden clogs, Cammakkhandhaka. Why? Too noisy, they disturb meditation, and you might accidentally crush insects.
Ah, non-harming is a factor, too.
Big factor. Also, no sandals made by cutting fresh palm leaves or bamboo shoots. That harms living plants, which lay people consider possessing life, so it looked bad.
Respect for nature and public perception again.
Exactly. And then a whole list of materials are banned for sandals. Grass, reeds, fancy fibers like palm or lotus, wool, and especially valuable materials. Gold, silver, jewels, crystal, glass, tin, lead, copper. Nothing luxurious.
Keeping it very simple, what are migratory sandals?
Vinaya Pitaka probably means sandals that aren't properly fitted or maybe temporary ones, implying a lack of mindfulness or proper equipment, also banned. And the general rule, don't wear sandals when going into a village for alms unless you're sick. Maintain that simple image.
It's incredibly detailed. It wasn't just sandals, though, right? The Jabagya had issues with furniture, too.
Oh, yes. They started using high, luxurious beds and seats. Things covered with fancy carpets, embroidered cloths, silk, Expensive wool, animal furs, deer skins, even fancy covers and red pillows.
Sounds like they were trying to live like kings.
Pretty much.
Uh-huh.
And again, lay people criticize them. They live like householders enjoying sensual pleasures. So the Buddha prohibited all these luxurious furnishings.
Okay, so what did the Chabagya do next?
They switched to using large animal skins, lion, tiger, leopard skins, as covers for their beds and chairs. Still trying to be grand.
And the Buddha's response?
Prohibited again. No large, showy animal skins.
But then came the calf incident. That sounds ominous.
It's a really grim story, actually. A particularly unethical monk apparently persuaded a lay follower, who is also described as wicked, to kill a calf just so the monk could have its hide.
That's awful, taking a life specifically for a luxury item.
It gets worse. The text says the mother cow, grieving, followed the monk around bellowing. It was a deeply disturbing scene for everyone.
I can only imagine. That must have had a huge impact.
It did. It led to a very firm rule.
Yeah.
Absolutely no taking life, and no using any kind of animal hide or skin for bedding or seating, period. It connects the rule directly to the principle of non-harming in a very visceral way.
A really strong ethical boundary drawn there, but there were some nuances.
A couple of subtle allowances. Monks can sit on furniture covered in leather if it belongs to lay people, just sit, not lie down. And they can sit on leather straps used for things like fastening luggage. Practical interactions allowed, but personal ownership or luxury use of skins is out.
Okay, a fine line. What about interacting with animals directly?
The Chabagya monks were apparently doing inappropriate things with cows too, grabbing their horns, ears, tails, riding on them.
Riding on cows.
Yes, and even worse, touching their genitals lustfully or killing calves themselves, all strictly prohibited. Basic respect for animals and avoiding unseemly conduct.
And transportation. Were monks allowed vehicles?
Generally, no. Walking was the norm, reinforcing simplicity and non-reliance. But again, practicality and compassion come in. An exception was made for sick monks needing to travel long distances.
Okay, that makes sense.
This then led to clarification. Okay, vehicles pulled by men were allowed for the sick. And if the bumping of the vehicle made the sick monk worse, then litters or palanquins, civicapakin, were permitted, always adapting to need.
It really shows this constant process of refinement, dealing with issues as they arose. So let's move to part 5. Soṇa comes back into the story.
Yes, Soṇa, now an arahant, travels to Savatthi to see the Buddha again. And Ananda, the Buddha's attendant, treats him with great respect, arranging for him to stay in the very same dwelling as the Buddha. A huge honor.
A sign of his achievement. And the Buddha asks him to recite something.
He does. He invites Soṇa to recite the Akakavagikani, which is a collection of suttas known for their focus on non-clinging. Soṇa recites them beautifully clear voice, fluent, full of meaning.
And the Buddha is impressed.
Very much. He praises the recitation and asks Soṇa how long he's been ordained. And the answer is just 1 year.
Only 1 year to reach arahantship. That's remarkable.
It is. Soṇa explains it was a long-held desire, but he acknowledged how hard the household life was, which spurred him on once he ordained.
But Soṇa has another reason for being there, right? A message.
Exactly. He's carrying a message from his teacher, Yasma Mahāvagga. Mahāvagga lives far away in Avandidaki Chapatha, a southern border region.
A border region? That sounds significant.
It is, because conditions there are different. Mahāvagga outlines 5 specific practical problems monks are facing there, and asks the Buddha for permission to adapt the Vinaya rules accordingly.
Okay, what are the problems?
First, it's a sparsely populated area. It's really difficult to gather the standard minimum of 10 monks needed for a full ordination ceremony, Pasampada. So the request is, can we do it with fewer monks?
Makes sense if the numbers just aren't there. What's second?
The ground is really rough. Harsh, stony, lots of thorns. Walking barefoot or with simple sandals is tough. So the request is, can we allow those complex sandals, Gantubana, that were banned elsewhere?
Ah, the ones the Chabagya were misusing. But here it's for a practical need.
Precisely. Third, local customs. People in that region bathe frequently and care a lot about water purity. The standard monastic allowance for bathing might seem insufficient or even unclean by local standards. So, can monks bathe more often, constantly if needed?
Adapting to local culture. Number 4.
Bedding materials. In that region, sheep, goat, and deer skins are common, everyday materials used for coverings. Like certain types of grass mats might be in the central regions, not necessarily a luxury item there. Request. Can monks use these common local skins as coverings?
Interesting. What was prohibited as luxury in one place might be basic necessity in another.
Exactly. And fifth, relates to receiving gifts. Sometimes lay donors from far away would send a robe, specifying it's for a particular monk. But the monks hesitated to accept it before it physically arrived, fearing they might break a rule about designated items. This could hinder support. Request. Can the Buddha clarify this rule?
Okay, 5 very practical issues arising from being in a different environment. So how does the Buddha respond? Does he insist on universal rules?
No, quite the opposite. This is where you really see his pragmatism and wisdom shine. He listens to Mahāvagga's points, delivered via Sota, and agrees to make specific modifications for border regions.
So tailored allowances, what are they?
For ordination. Yes, in specified border regions, the minimum quorum is reduced to 5 monks, as long as one is an expert in the Vinaya. He even lists some example border areas.
Okay, that solves the population issue. What about the shoes?
He permits the use of those complex sandals, the Gaigatnupahana, specifically in border regions where the terrain requires them.
And the bathing.
Also allowed. Constant bathing is permitted in those regions to align with local customs and hygiene standards.
What about the animal skins?
Permitted as well.
Sheep, goat, and deer skins can be used as coverings or bedding in border regions where there are common materials, not luxuries.
It shows a real understanding of context. And the robes.
He clarifies the rule. A robe offered to a specific monk isn't considered formally taken or possessed by that monk until they physically receive it. So they can accept the designation from afar without committing an offense. It removes the obstacle to receiving support.
That's incredibly adaptable. It suggests the rules aren't meant to be rigid dogma, but living guidelines.
Absolutely. The core principles of non-harming, simplicity, renunciation remain. But the specific application can be adjusted based on compassion, necessity, and context. It allowed the Dhamma and the Sangha to spread and thrive in diverse conditions.
So, wrapping up this deep dive into the Cammakkhandhaka, what are the big takeaways for you?
Well, we've seen this amazing arc from Sama's personal struggle and finding balance, guided by that brilliant lute analogy. Yeah, that was powerful. To the Buddha's skillful way of demonstrating spiritual authority without ego, like with Sāgata's display, and then drilling down into the nitty-gritty of community rule.
Rules about everything from sandals to sofas to bathing.
Exactly. It shows how a spiritual path has to grapple with real life, with human nature, with different environments. It's not just abstract philosophy, it's lived practice, constantly being negotiated and refined.
What stands out to you is maybe that blend, the miraculous coexisting with the mundane, psychic powers and rules about footwear.
That's a great way to put it. It's this rich tapestry, isn't it? Personal effort, extraordinary events, and the day-to-day work of building a community that can actually sustain itself and support people on the path.
And the Buddha's wisdom seems just as much in the practical adjustments as in the profound teachings.
I think so. His willingness to adapt the rules, especially for those border regions, based on real needs and compassion, that's a powerful lesson in leadership and in understanding the spirit versus the letter of the law.
It definitely leaves you thinking. That willingness to modify things for practical reasons, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Where in our own lives, or maybe in the systems we're a part of, could sticking too rigidly to the rules actually be getting in the way of genuine well-being or progress?
That's a really potent question to reflect on. Where might a bit more of that wise adaptation, that pragmatic compassion, allow for greater flourishing, both for ourselves and others?
Something to definitely mull over.